Hey, 15, 20 minutes goes by quick, and I'm glad to see that you're all networking. There's about 20 of us in here now. So for our next interview, we've actually got Shannon Hough Stickler is going to join me here. I'm going to pull her up next to me. And Shannon is a good friend. I've known her as on the internet for quite a while. We met, well, we probably didn't meet, but I used to follow her back on the internet in John Bridge Forums. Some of you might be familiar with John Bridge Forums. Hi, Shannon.
Hey, it's working. Hi.
Right. So I was just introducing yourself, you, and now if I can, let's hear from you. Give us your, 300-foot overview of how you got started in the tile industry. I was just telling the audience that I had met you actually back in the John Bridge days, what was that, 10, 12 years ago. And of course, we've, gotten to know each other better in the last couple of years.
Right. And a lot of different mediums.
Yeah.
Including real life, finally. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. So, I mean, back at the beginning of time, in my tile life.
In your tile life. Yeah.
Right. So I had many lives and many different jobs over the years, and somewhere around 90, I'm going to say it was somewhere around 98, 99. My dad had started his second career as a tile guy, and my uncle, his younger brother, with him. And I had made some changes in my life and decided to go back to school. It was a little hard to hold the jobs that I had at that time and balance the school schedule. So I would just kind of, ask him if there was anything I could do for him just to pick up a little extra cash, So it was somewhere around that time that I started, going to his jobs, and I didn't know anything really about tile, but I could carry boxes, I could sweep.
Yeah.
And I think mostly he paid me, just to make sure I was taken care of and keep him company. I intended to finish my degree and go off and get a job. So it was just sort of an in-between thing originally.
What was the degree you went for?
I was an English major
Okay.
with a couple of minors, writing and anthropology. I think my intention was to go get a job as a copy editor at a publishing house and then just continue writing. And by the time I finished that degree, I was working pretty steadily for him. I had let go of the couple other miscellaneous things I was doing, bartending, waitressing, stuff like that. And I liked it. I liked being with him and my uncle, and I liked the work.
What kind of work did they specialize in? I know it was tile, but
yeah, residential. Definitely didn't get into the commercial part of things. I think there was a scattered job here or there, that was more commercial, but yeah, it was residential.
Cool. So what did you like? What did you enjoy about it? And then where did it go from there?
Well, I think what I enjoyed about it most at first was just being able to spend time with them, and I liked working with my hands. That was something that I never knew about me, I guess.
Yeah.
I liked the satisfaction of, kind of walking into a kind of a raw setting and being given a pile of stuff, and making something cool and beautiful that people were excited about. It was kind of, interesting to just be a part of that process, and really satisfying, to kind of stand back and look at something and know that it wouldn't be just how it was if you hadn't made it happen. I mean, it's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Creating like that.
Exactly. So. Yeah, that does feel good. It does feel good.
Right. Big turn on, definitely. So where it went after that was when I graduated from college. I was pretty burnt out. I was like the typical returning student overachiever, and I looked at entry-level positions in some local publishing houses, and it was less than I was already making working with him.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what?
You were hooked.
I'm just gonna hang out here for a while, But I had always intended to leave. I just was, figuring out what I wanted to do. I'll hang out with you for a little while. And then I started picking up side work. I was with them for probably 3-4 years when I started to have people asking me, like, if I could look at their this or that bathroom, kitchen, and whatnot. And my dad would, help me figure out what I needed to get it done, give me some tools to get it done. And then eventually just the side work became, a full-time thing. It sort of, happened to me.
Nice.
I mean, I let it happen.
Yeah. It is funny though how you say that. It happened to me, and it sucked you in. You were making better money within a short amount of time in the trade, than other job opportunities. So it does happen quick.
Well, at that point, it was like, I dreaded facing going into like an office setting, because now I knew what it felt like to kind of, be out, right, on a different job site. So different scenery, different tasks. It was different every day.
Yeah.
Even on the same job, it was different every day, because some days you're prepping, some days you're cutting, some days you're grouting, some days you're doing design. So it was interesting. And the idea of going and sitting behind a desk at that point was like, no thanks.
Yeah.
I'll stick with this.
Yeah.
So I just kind of kept following the path, as it appeared. It wasn't a plan. I did the bare minimum that I needed to, as far as like the business part of it. I didn't have even a business name until I came upon a job where they told me I needed one.
Yeah.
So I went and got one. And then I didn't even have like insurance initially,
Right.
until I came up on a job that I wanted, where they told me I had to have it. So then I went out and got it, and I just kind of, fumbled my way through building myself. It was pretty clumsy too. But I just, whatever the next step was, when it appeared, I took it.
Yeah. Well,
but I had no plan.
Yeah, you know what? And that's life. I mean, that is real life. And that is the tile industry at large. A lot of us just come up in a very similar stories with family or our friends, and kind of just find ourselves on our own at some point. And we have no plans.
Yeah.
So how did you go from that to being the Schluter girl, queen of tile? I mean, and let's talk real quick too about some of the challenging jobs you had along the way, because I remember one job, I think you had like a 6-bathroom job, and you were doing it all yourself or something crazy like that. And I just remember reading about this, and how, the internet and the John Bridge forums, we were all able to help each other. I mean, I was much younger then, and I was just watching this all unfold.
Right. Yeah. No, and that was actually a 12-bathroom house. So it was like unthinkable, But I had been doing, I think I was still with my dad a little bit, and a builder that I, friend of a friend, you kind of get like passed around,
Sure.
I had met a guy that was building spec homes. I don't even remember how I got introduced to him. He was friends with another builder in the area that did a lot of high-end residential work. His regular tile guy, like something happened to him and he wasn't around. So this guy was like, hey, do you mind jumping in on this job? And when I did, I guess he decided he liked me, know, and he saw something in me that I didn't even know about myself. And he said, I'm going to give you this house. It's got 12 bathrooms in it. And and I'm looking around behind me and I'm like, I don't have a crew. Like that's way beyond my capability, And he said, this is what I see that's giving me the confidence to hand this to you. You're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
I know enough about your personality to know that if I put this on your plate, you're going to figure out how to do it. And so the first thing I did when I was given that job was I went to the John Bridge Forum. My dad had introduced me to that community pretty early on. I'd been listening for years about my mother complaining about how, are you on that goddamn computer again? So he was pretty involved in the community. So he turned me on to that. And he's like, listen, you've only ever worked for me, but you can gather knowledge from all these guys if you dip in here. So I did. And I put out the SOS help.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to mud floors. I found a guy on there out in Pennsylvania that I think his thing was his screen name or whatever was Mudman, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
He came out and mudded the floors for me. Someone introduced me to I think it was Henry Rothberg, and was like, you know, this guy will help you find the materials you need to be able to do it, you know. So it's like all the connections were there,
Yeah.
all the resources, everything I needed, and everybody just piled in and said, okay, you're going to need this, you're going to need that, and I got it done. And that house and pulling that off for that builder completely changed my business,
Yeah.
because from that point on, all the high end guys were, you know, like, well, who's this girl? Like, maybe I need her, you know. And I was just off and running with some really quality work. I got spoiled from that point forward. I didn't have to fight for work. Nobody ever questioned
Yeah.
my invoices. It was, you know, I wasn't bidding against
That's
anyone. I mean,
awesome.
I really just took off,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and that never would have happened without the support of that community, you know,
Yeah.
for sure. I know that. So when I was running for a while, you know, I would go to little contractor events at local things. I was introduced to my Schluter rep, um, Dan Wagner, and I kept trying to grow the business, and I was really struggling with that,
Yeah.
you know. And I moved away from well, I don't want to get too detailed, but basically, I was interested in adopting the Schluter system into my business model.
Sure.
I
Sure.
There were some things there that really gave me a level of confidence and security. I felt the labor that I was working with that I didn't have before.
Sure.
So I got tight with him, and I don't, you know, again, I've been lucky, you know,
Yeah.
that people have given me everything I have because they saw something in me that I didn't know about myself, you
Yeah.
know. So Dan called me up one day out of the blue and said, you know, I'm changing positions here at Schluter. There's you know, somebody's going to need to do my job, and I think you're the right person. And I was
Wow.
like, yeah. Like, no, I think you're mistaken. I'm flattered.
And
Thank you very much. But, you know,
what
I don't know anything about
what
sales.
year was that when he approached you for that position?
That was in 2000. I want to say it was 2011-ish.
Okay. So like
And I said
eight or 9
no.
years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't think I was qualified at all. You know, I said I'm a tile setter. I'm not a salesperson.
Sure.
I don't know how to do that. I know nothing about it. And he said, you know, it's not what you think it is. You know, all you have to do is tell your story to other tile setters. You know, tell them what using Schluter did for your business, how it changed things for you and improved things, and just be honest and tell your story.
Yeah.
And that's really all we need you to do. He's like, the other stuff, you know, meeting with the distributors and the dealers and all that kind of stuff, that business stuff, you'll pick it up as you go along. We know you will.
Yeah.
So again, you know, they saw something in me that I didn't know was there, and just kind of plopped me down and said, "Go, girl.
Yeah.
Anything you need, you let us know. Go do your thing." And so I was off and running with that. You know,
I love it.
that's how it happened.
Well, I love hearing the story, Shannon, and thank you for sharing. I love hearing the evolution of things, you know, reaching out to people, even if it's not in person, on the internet, reaching out, it's going to get you that next level. And then all of a sudden you meet your reps and you start having a conversation that gets you to another level. You find a system that you
Yep.
believe in and you can sell wholeheartedly. And so I do have a two-part question, another question for you before we wrap this up. But I want to remind the audience, if you have a question for Shannon, go ahead and put it in the chat box. Monica says, that's awesome, Shannon. One of the reps I met at Innovations One told me you're amazing. And yes, she is. So, and hook up with Shannon, you know, and exchange information for any of you who after this, we're going to be networking some more. So go ahead and put those comments in the chat box. And my two-part
Thanks,
question,
Monica.
my two-part question for you, Shannon, now is what challenges do you see here, you know, besides the immediate situation in the tile industry that we kind of need to overcome, or that kind of, you know, worry you, keep you up at night? And then what excites you right now about the tile industry?
Um, I I don't know. I wonder if I can answer this in 2 questions in one answer. What we're doing right now, is exciting. And I think it is the solution to where people are hung up also, and what I mean by that is just the interactions, and the relationships and the networking.
Yeah.
And making use of all the different technologies that are available to make that possible. Like I said already, what happened with me in the John Bridge Forum, spurred me down the path further to better and more interesting places. Then the advent, when Jack and the guys from John Bridge jumped me into the Facebook gang, and then all of these groups that have developed. I didn't have that as the tall setter. I wish I did. I don't know how different my life would have been and the opportunities that might have come my way if I had those things then. So I try, and my position now, my role is different now. I try to be that resource, right?
Sure.
I mean, but I think that taking advantage of events like this, the Facebook groups, certainly every bit of networking that you can get, those are all tools in your toolbox, and that's amazing. I'm super excited by that.
That's awesome.
I just, the community building, the opportunities, like I said, you meet someone and you have no idea what they have to offer, but if you don't put yourself in the place where you can meet that person, then there's no opportunity, right? If you don't ask, the answer is always no. So you got to show up and let it happen.
You're absolutely right. And back in the day, it was 2008 when I got heavily involved in the John Bridge forums. I had just received my contractor license for California. I had just gotten married, and I had moved to a new city in Monterey, California, with my wife. And I was basically dead in the water, a duck in the water at the beginning of the financial crisis. And the John Bridge forums were like my rescue. And my wife would come home after her shift, and she'd be like, "You're still on there." But I was learning, and I was soaking it up. What would have excelled me even further is exactly what you said. If I had gotten involved and asked questions and gotten to know people, because I was just, an invisible troll, or not a troll, but but I was just invisible, soaking up the information, which is great. But we've got to have those interactions. So I just wanted to emphasize that. And thank you for your time, Shannon. I really appreciate this interview.
Thanks for asking me. This is fun.
You're welcome. Let me see if there was any other questions here. I believe there was, actually. I
don't know if there was I see it too.
Yeah, if you had advice to someone getting started about having a plan, what would you tell someone about planning?
Well, if I knew then what I know now, having a plan. Well, what I think the best plan is to get good help.
Sure.
I think that, none of us were born or wake up knowing everything, and some of us are like, I was a terrific tile setter, but I didn't know anything about running a business, so I needed help with that. And I think that, and that's what I'm talking about with these resources we have available now. Of course you don't know how to do it, and it's okay that you don't know how to do it. But what's smart is knowing that you don't know how to do it, and then finding someone who does and linking up with that person. So I think that, in the beginning stages of your plan, I would say the most important thing is to take inventory of what your assets are and what your limitations are. Figure out how to exploit those assets, to their greatest potential. And if you have limitations or gaps in your knowledge, figure out how to fill them. Find those people, get your team lined up, and then you're ready for anything, whatever it is that you want to do.
And then the last question I see from the audience is, what is your current position at Schluter? I guess I forgot to announce that.
And I did too, which is terrible. I hope no one from Schluter's watching. I'm going to get in trouble. I am my fancy title is Social Media Community Liaison for Schluter Systems North America. That's my very long title. So my job is essentially to connect people in the online community to all of the resources we have at Schluter. That's the abbreviated description of my job. Do you want to try to do this? I guess there's a third part there. How can people leverage the forums and networking for themselves? I think I probably have mostly answered that too.
Yeah, I think the idea is to jump in with both feet there. And you know, and what Shannon didn't mention is she is doing an incredible job flying around the country. She flies, you know, and is around the country visiting job sites and helping tile contractors, and we appreciate it, not only online but in person now as well with the new job, which you've had for what, 8 months, 12 months.
Yeah, the new job of well, I mean, I've been online for years, doing it sort of as a hobby, as I was a territory manager responsible for New Jersey here. Officially, someone else took over my taking care of New Jersey, and that job became real on April 1st, so now full time. And the job visiting thing, incidentally, is like my favorite thing to do. I miss being on job sites. So if anyone wants to invite me to their job site, there you go. I would appreciate it. Although I have to say, it needs to be a Schluter job. I feel like that should be obvious, but I get a lot of people trying to get me to come to their job site and they're not even using Schluter, and I'm like, you do know who I am, right? So if you're building something with orange products and you want me to come for a visit, you
can't help me with my Mapei products.
I could. You know, if we turn all the cameras off, I might be able to give some helpful advice as a former tile setter. But yeah, no, you want to stick with the orange stuff when you're talking to me.
Well, hey, I really appreciate your time, and we're going to jump back into the networking sessions with everybody. I see a couple fellow New Jersey peeps, looks like, in the chat box. So
I see.
You'll definitely want to hit up and visit with them. And again, thank you. And we'll have about 15 minutes for networking, and then we're going to go into another interview. So stay tuned for that.
All right. Stick around. Thanks, Luke.